doing? What's that scary noise? I don't know what that noise is. It sounds like a gunshot, but there have been about 50 going off. Maybe someone's dove hunting and they just suck at shooting. Are they just missing all of their shots? Hey folks, my name is Megan and welcome back to Fireside Farms. Today is a beautiful overcast day, about 55 degrees. It has been raining for the last few days here in the desert southwest of New Mexico. And I have a garden tour planned for y'all since I haven't had one in about 2 weeks, and it has changed quite a bit. Just to give you all some background information. Freya. This is my trusty farm dog, Freya. I live in zone 8A in southern New Mexico, which is in the southwest United States. I live in the Chihuahuan Desert, where we get about between 7 and 10 inches of rain annually. It is 55 degrees outside, but that's freezing to me right now. So I look a little overdressed, I'm sure, to most of y'all, but I'm very cold. I'm attempting to build a homestead here on approximately 1.5 acres of land. I do have about an 1,800 square foot garden that I do plan to expand to about 3,600 square feet, I believe. I also currently have 10 laying hens, where we receive all of our eggs from, and we have started a round of meat birds in conjunction with family that I have in another town. So we will be harvesting those meat birds in mid-November, I think, and of course I'll update you guys with all that information as well as soon as I can get down there to do a video. But for now, let me show you around the garden. I do have almost all of my fall crops planted, and they are well on their way to maturing, which is very exciting. I still also have some summer crops, okra, peppers, a couple bean plants, but most everything is on its way out, and I'm not harvesting a whole lot of summer vegetables anymore. So let's get to it. So the entire food garden consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 raised beds. And Freya, did you bring me a stick? And then I also have 4 in-ground, slightly hilled beds that I attempted for the first time this year. I have pretty poor alkaline sandy soil, typical desert soil, so I don't have a whole lot of luck growing in this, but I'm attempting to amend the soil in order to be able to grow. So I will be beginning on the south side of the beds and moving north down each row of beds, and I'll tour that way. That's the way I did my first garden tour, which I'll put in a card somewhere around there. But let's get started. In this bed, the largest plants you see right here are all Brussels sprouts. They're doing okay. On one of my previous videos, I did voice some concerns about herbicide contamination in the soil. You can refer to my last video for that, and we're going to keep an eye on this as they keep growing to see if anything changes, or I can determine that they actually are being damaged by aminopyralids. These 2 plants in the corners right here are hatch green chili plants or hatch red chili plants. Honestly, I'm letting most of the green chilies ripen to a red so that I can dry them into a ristra anyways. But some of them I am picking green, taking inside, roasting, and then freezing to preserve all winter. Another Brussels sprout. This is a hollyhock left over from the summer. It will come back next year and flower. It did not flower this year. They're biennial plants. Planted here against this trellis with the intent that they will climb up is Laxton's Progress number 9 English pea. It is a shelling pea, so you wait until the pods get plump and then you shell them like you get frozen peas in the store. That's the type of peas that these are. Right next to them I have fall planted calendula, which is a frost hardy flower. And a quick word on calendula, because it has been one of my favorite herbs to grow, because yarrow is also a favorite herb to grow this year. It did so well in the heat and the blistering sun, and it just kept blooming right on through all of the terrible, terrible weather we had this summer. And it is frost hardy, so I can grow it straight into the fall and keep on harvesting calendula, which I do. I harvest the flowers, dry them, and use them to make infused oil for a salve and things like that. But definitely one of my top medicinal herbs. It's edible. You can eat it in salads. The flowers are really pretty on salads. And just ornamental flower if you wanted to grow it as such for the desert. It has performed so well. This is the Calendula Resin variety. It's the original calendula flower. They're usually yellow to kind of an orange. They have the most resin inside the flower head, which is what you want harvested for the medicinal properties. Continuing on with the Brussels sprouts, these are looking far better than that dilapidated mangled one right there. And underneath here, my leeks are doing fantastic. So this is my first time growing leeks, but I am very, very excited because I've always wanted to make leek soup, and I'm a huge fan of onions. So we have a little red chili here, almost ready. Soon. Oh! This one is ready. So now coming across directly in north, we have this humongous ragged jack kale. Huge. And all of these plants are doing this well this year. So I'm very, very happy about that. I haven't harvested a whole bunch only because I only have a few kale plants that are this mature, and I want to be able to harvest a whole bunch all at once so I can dehydrate them and make kale chips. All of these large brassicas in here are cauliflower, which have been ravaged by cabbage worms, but are recovering after a spinosad treatment and vigorous picking of worms daily. I have not seen any heads forming yet, but that's okay. Here is some lovely Thai basil, which smells so good. And all over here I have calendula. I planted it everywhere because it's so amazing. So this is the same variety, the Calendula Resin, but see how this one has yellow flowers and this one has these beautiful orange flowers. But it is the same variety. I believe the seed packet I got is from Baker Creek, so you can check there, but everyone carries calendula. Here's Genovese Basil, and these two little guys hiding inside of the cauliflower is chamomile and yarrow, which in hindsight, maybe that was a poor planting location because they're barely getting any sun, but we'll fix that next year. Here's a dill that I harvested from the other day. That's why it's looking a little raggedy here, but it smells amazing. This is a chard. He's looking a little sad because I just transplanted him, but I think he'll be fine. It's also been raining and overcast for the last 2 days, so some of these guys could use a little bit of sun just to perk back up. Alright, we are now back south end of the bed, middle row. This bed and the one across as well are both 4x4s. In this I have planted Sugar Daddy snap peas, which are starting to blossom, and look, there's a little pea. Look at that cute little dude. These two behemoths are Rutabaga, which are close, but not quite there. They're looking very, very good though. They got hit by cabbage moths and worms earlier in the season, but they recovered nicely. This is a random lettuce variety I don't have the name for. Chives, which are going to flower. They have these beautiful purple blossoms. and then this is yarrow. These are another bush variety of peas. They're not vining peas, but I do not remember the name. They might be sugar daddy as well. They still good. We got some little peas coming in right here. And then these are leeks growing up on the inside of the trellis. I didn't have enough, well, I didn't start enough vining varieties of peas to fill all 3 of my trellises. And I didn't really have any other fall or winter crops that would vine up a trellis. So I just stuck these leeks here because there was space. All right, here on the north side, we still have this red Malabar spinach trucking along, doing okay. I'm sure he's loving all the rain that we just got. And just in the same as the other bed, I have peas here and the leeks, which are going so well. It really never ceases to amaze me how much the plants perk up once we get a rain around here, or just even a few cool days of weather, the break from the heat. They just seem to breathe a new fresh breath of life into themselves. It's amazing. These guys, these lettuces are doing wonderfully. I've already harvested some. I had a freckles lettuce, I believe was the name of it, right here that I harvested and gave to my mom today. I think it was like a butterhead lettuce. It was so soft and so delicious. I'm kind of jealous that she got that one, but it was the nicest one I had. Here's the rosemary I planted this year. It was about probably that tall when I got it from the nursery. So it's grown quite a bit, and it will only continue to fill out because it is a perennial and it will survive here in zone 8A. These are some more red and green chilies, looking delicious. That looks so good. So our first frost is usually expected around between November 1st, like the first week of November, second week of November. I believe last year it came mid-November because I had left pepper plants in the ground while we were out of town on a hunt, and when we came back from the hunt they were dead. So it's actually a really good idea to leave a couple annual frost tender plants in your bed or in your garden area just to be certain when that frost date was in your garden. I know that I have a temperature gauge up at the house and a temperature gauge here in the garden, and obviously my house is on a higher part of the land. I can have as much as a 10-degree difference between the garden and the front of my house sometimes. So there will be times when parts of your property will freeze and other parts of your property won't. So it's good to have something that will tell you that, like a plant that will die if it freezes. I apologize if I'm a little sniffly too. It's the cold weather. Cold. Oh, look at these. Look at these beautiful flowers. Giving us a show. All right, we are starting on last row from south to north, but real quick, look at these cuties. Morning glories, which I know a lot of y'all in green places will say that's a noxious weed, but I'm just happy that something is growing without me having to water it. So I'll take it. Here we have the infamous pepper bed, which I have been working on for the last couple of videos. Harvesting peppers, taking peppers out. As you can see, I've got a lot of space in here now where I've removed several whole plants. I am trying to make space so that I can get in here tomorrow and amend this with a top layer of compost. So all of my garden beds are no-till, and what I do each season. So I make my own compost here with wood chips, kitchen scraps, weeds, and my chickens. And what I do every season is I'll just top dress each of these beds with a layer of fresh compost. And then along with that layer of fresh compost, whenever I plant my started plants or seedlings into the bed, I will also amend the holes with maybe worm castings, some sort of organic fertilizer, depending on what I think the bed requires or what that individual plant needs for its growth cycle. So for all the peppers in these beds, I have 3 green chili plants, 1 banana pepper, a shishito, a padrone, a bacchino, an orb weaver, a Thai hot pepper, and another padrone pepper plant. I do believe there is a shishito pepper plant hiding down in there as well, that little guy. But he's not spitting out much anymore. Now, although I have murdered half of the plants in this bed, I don't think I'm ready to let go of my peppers yet. I just needed space. In this bed we have ginger, which I'm gonna harvest soon, and I'm super excited for because I've never grown ginger before. These are chives, which have not gone to seed, so I'm still harvesting from these for dinners and such. And then mint, which is going to take over this bed, which I am perfectly okay with. That is why it's in there, so that it will have a safe place, it can spread its wings and not bother anybody else. All right guys, we are losing the light and I apologize. But we are on the second to last bed, and here we have more climbing peas. I believe these are also Laxton's Progress number 9. This looks like a cabbage to me. There are quite a few brassicas in here that I just threw in last minute and didn't have labeled. But all of these in here are broccoli. But first I will show you this lovely parsley, which I have never grown before. Some of these cool weather herbs like parsley and oregano are really, really difficult to grow here. Because we don't really have an in-between season. We don't really have a spring or a fall. The spring is especially hard where I live because our monsoon season, we only get up to 10 inches of rain a year, but our monsoon season is in the fall, and actually the hottest and driest time of the year is in the spring and summer months. So coming out of winter, it's warming up, but we're not getting any rain, and it's warming up very quickly and getting very hot. So I can't grow a lot of cool weather crops in the spring, and fall is the time to do that. And I'll have to do a separate video on things I changed from my last year's fall planting to this year. But the things that I have changed, like when I start my seeds, has proven to be very successful, and I'm having way more luck this year than I did last year. So here is yet again more calendula, more ragged kale that I've apparently given to the pests. But if you look over here, look at this baby broccoli. Oh my goodness. I'm very excited. Cover that little guy back up. And we are on to the last bed. So all in here I have a bunch of rutabagas. I believe that's bok choy, and dino kales. Various lettuces I don't have the name for. That looks a lot like a cabbage to me. Rutabaga. And all of these are 2 rows of red Russian kale or ragged jack kale. I had previously planted this with radishes, but I've since harvested them all and planted more leeks that I had waiting to go into the beds. So these guys are real small. They've been sitting in a pot for a while, so they're going to take quite a bit longer than the other leeks I've had planted out for a bit. But they'll get there, and they should make it over the winter just fine. So now we are on to the in-ground garden, which has largely been a success this year. The rows are probably about 2 feet wide, and maybe 2 to 3 feet on the walkways in between. It's not a strict measurement that I followed, and I do plan to extend the bed part by just every time I add soil every season, I'll just widen it out a bit. There's no hard and fast rule. This is all lined with cardboard underneath, although I do have Bermuda grass as my primary lawn grass because that's all that grows around here. In the absence of rain, I actually don't have that much of a problem keeping the Bermuda grass under control. So as terrible as Bermuda grass is, without rain, you kind of chop its legs off. So this row, well actually all of these rows, have a bunch of brassicas that are not labeled. I did not label, well I did label most of them originally and they either blew away or fell out or I lost them. I'm not too worried about it. Most of these I can tell apart. But I believe this row is mostly broccolis and cabbages. And those broccolis specifically are going to be the Diquicho or Desicho broccoli. And all of these smaller ones were planted later. And if I'm not mistaken, I'll double check and I'll put it right here if I'm wrong, but I believe these are the Waltham 29 broccoli variety because I didn't get these seeds started as quickly as I wanted to. So unfortunately, the more heat tolerant variety that I planted, I actually planted later to the cool season. Whoops. Here's some catnip, which I'm harvesting regularly for teas and for cats. There's a wild Freya. Hey, you know you're not allowed in the garden. Get. You can obviously tell that these plants are significantly smaller than those plants. 2 reasons. One, they were planted later than the plants. Like I started the seeds later than the plants in the raised bed garden, but also sun, where some of these plants got sun damage. Sun damage, dead leaf that was sun damaged. These guys. So a lot of these guys did pull through. It just stunted their growth for a little bit, and that happens quite often. That happens with my heat tolerant plants even. So it's just something that you have to deal with. We're at a higher elevation, and being in the desert, it's just higher solar radiation. So that's one of the primary reasons I have a shade cloth up over the entirety of my garden for most of the summer. But you just learn to grow where you're planted, you know? Okay, yeah, so I have no idea what these beans are. They might be the Provider bush beans. I don't know if that's what these look like because I don't recall planting them. And I've never planted them before, but I know I have a bag. So if anyone knows, let me know. I can't find any ones large enough to have the seeds in them, but yeah, no clue. Anyways, I've got a couple of those and I've been eating from them. So here I have some beautiful Roselle Hibiscus. And I have been harvesting some of the calyxes for tea. This is my first year growing a Roselle, and it didn't do fantastic. It's rather small, if you'll notice. It's, gosh, only about maybe 3 feet tall max. This was planted at the beginning of the summer season, like in the spring. And it had the hardest time growing with the direct sun. I should have planted it in the raised bed garden, and I will definitely do that next year where it has some shade cloth protection. But once the fall cooler weather came and the cooler nights came and we started getting our monsoon rains, it livened right up. And I actually got something out of it. So that's actually super exciting. Here are some, I'm just calling them sacrificial broccoli plants because they're doing terribly, but the pests seem to want only them. So I'll let them die for the betterment of the community. Here's some more wonderful catnip. Some more unknown brassicas, probably a broccoli. I don't know what that is. This is a southern bush cowpea. So I don't remember which variety, because I believe it has a number on it, but it is a southern bush cowpea variety. These were extremely productive for me this year, and I will definitely be growing them for the dried peas again next year. This looks a whole lot like a cabbage, and I don't know what that is. Maybe a rutabaga? So here we are in the final bed, and I recently took out a couple okra plants that were right here and a couple bean plants because I wasn't really harvesting okra anymore, and I really just want to save the seeds for next year. I'm over it. So I'm letting this okra plant go to seed so the pods will dry up and I can harvest the seeds. I didn't get any earlier. Did really well in the full sun. So that's why I absolutely want to save its seeds. And when I took the okra and the beans out, I replanted some chard that I had in pots that I needed to get out here. So that went in. And here we have rutabagas, which are doing absolutely wonderfully since transplanting them out here. So if y'all are still here after that garden tour, you should probably give a like and a subscribe because that's what this channel is all about. So I do plan on doing a full property tour at some point. I don't have a whole lot planted in the way of perennial or long-term bushes, berries, or trees. I have attempted. I've had a lot of deaths, unfortunately, but I'm working on it. I also do want to I wanted to give you all this quick garden tour while I had this amazing overcast day where it's not blinding my eyes with sunlight. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to see something in particular that I do on my property, please let me know down below, or feel free to message me on Instagram. But thank you all for joining me today, and I'm sure the next time you see me, we will be amending that pepper bed and planting things. Thanks.